Welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone Suzanne Riss. Is it Riss or Reese?
That's right.
Riss?
It's Riss.
Riss and Jill Sockwell. And you are, first of all, you are the creators or leaders of the Maplewood Divorce Club. And you are also co-authors of The Optimist Guide to Divorce. And you will be at Words Bookstore in Maplewood Village Thursday, that's this Thursday, January 26th, at 7:30 p.m. to sign and discuss The Optimist Guide to Divorce. And thank you both for being here.
Thank
you for having us.
Now, first off, let's start. The Maplewood Divorce Club started a while ago. I know there was a story in the New York Post we posted. Tell us how that got started and what it does. Why don't you start, Suzanne?
Sure, thanks. We started the Maplewood Divorce Club in about 2013, and it grew out of the support that Jill and I were finding just as new friends who were introduced when we were both in the very early stages of our divorces, and we were looking for some sort of guidance and help and really, in the frying pan trying to figure things out. And we started going on walks together and talking about everything that we were dealing with, from both of us moving to raising our kids. And out of that support that we were both getting from each other, we thought, why don't we spread this around and see if there are other divorced women in town who might want to meet up and talk. And that's how we had our first meeting of the Maplewood Divorce Club.
Now, Jill, how long were you married and how long have you been divorced?
I was married for almost 10 years and separated in late 2010, and my divorce process took about 2 years, which we find is pretty much average. And so it's been about 5 years since I've been divorced.
And you have any children?
I do. I have 2 little girls.
How old are they?
10 and a half and almost 12.
Oh, so nice and busy ages, of course.
Yes.
And Suzanne, how about you? You were married how long and divorced how long?
Pretty similar numbers. Married about 10 years and divorced about 5 years, and I have one son who is 12.
So you have children that are similar ages. Is that how you met, through similar...
We were introduced through a mutual friend who knew that we were both separated and thought that we would benefit, from meeting, which, of course, that was like kismet that she introduced us, because we just hit it off right away and kind of realized, like Suzanne was saying, that when we started the club, sometimes I think in the suburbs you look around and it seems like everyone is a big happy family. And so being separated and divorced and going through that, it can feel a little bit lonely, like maybe I'm the only one or one of a handful. And what we were so surprised about was that when we had our first meeting in March of 2013, as Suzanne mentioned, we had over 50 women show up at our first meeting. So it was just amazing, when we really tried to widen the net, how many people, came and how many people needed the resource, and it was amazing to make this little micro community.
And Suzanne, how many people are in the club now, or is it kind of a up and down amount? Whoever wants to be involved, come and go, or they?
Well, the number does is fluid because people are joining, and then as they're moving through their divorce, sometimes are leaving the group. But I would say now we have about 100 people on our Facebook page. We have a secret Facebook page where we post our meetings, and then each meeting has anywhere between 12 and 15 people. And then there are also offshoot meetings, and that's something that we think is really terrific. If you can't meet on Thursdays, and you have special interests, or it turns out a few women have kids the same age, or they're in the same part of town, they've formed their own groups. There's also a men's group that we helped. Well, I think they needed an overhaul because it was very inconsistent, and they came to us and asked us, could you help us make our group more successful? So each meeting is smaller, but the number of women in our club is fairly large, almost 100.
And Jill, what are you finding that is the one thing that getting divorced people together to sort of share their problems and solutions? What's the one or two big issues that come up maybe that you didn't expect and that also came up for yourself?
Well, I think what was most surprising, knowing that a lot of us obviously were seeking support and friendship, but didn't know each other. So imagine almost you have a lot of things in common, but these are near strangers. And what was so surprising, I feel like, was how comfortable everyone was because of what we had in common. That right off the bat, people are sharing, their bearing their souls almost, if you will, and crying and just saying like, thank goodness I found this. So I think I was surprised initially with how willing everyone was. It was refreshing and genuine. Everyone was so willing to kind of bear it all and really put their story out there and connect with one another. And I think the other thing would be that I found was very surprising was initially, Suzanne and I were putting the group together against the backdrop of going through our own divorces. So, that's kind of a series of when you have a lot going on in your personal life, you sometimes think, can I take on something else? And what we found was, the small effort that it was to organize the group was nothing in comparison to what we have gotten out of it and what others have gotten out of it. So that's what we're trying to spread the word about as people want to start to offshoot groups and approached us about that is, it's a very minimal effort and the reward, continues exponentially as you help other people who go on to help other people. It's it's a very amazing thing to be a part of.
And Suzanne, can I ask how old both of you are?
I'm 40.
And Suzanne?
I'll just defer and say that I'm a little older than Jill.
Because I think it helps people to know the different ages that divorce occurs, and the optimism should continue no matter what age you're at. Or is it different?
It's almost an ageless.
It really is, right?
In the sense that we did a reading last Thursday, and a woman, at the end we did questions, and she said, but I'm in my 60s. And she said, so, it's not as easy for me to be an optimist. And I thought Suzanne had a really nice answer for her. And what she said was, if at your age you feel like, but everyone else is enjoying their retirement with their husband or potentially enjoying grandchildren or a vacation home, there's always something. So if you're getting divorced in your mid-20s or late 20s or early 30s, it might be everyone else is having babies. Or if it's in your 40s, it might be, everyone else is getting through middle school with the help of a partner. So there's always something, I think, regardless of any age when you're going through a divorce.
And at different ages, it can be different things, right? Like you said, if you're in your 20s, you don't have kids, but you've gone through a divorce, maybe it was very bitter or not, and you have to sort of get over that, or at least deal with it, whereas at an older age you have children, and then as you said, at an even older age your children, maybe you don't have them or they're out of the house and you have other issues being of a certain age. But
right.
What kind of is the similarity at all the ages, if any, in how you deal with it?
Well, I think that, there are so many parts of it that are challenging. I just wanted to mention that what we, ourselves, what helped us the most and what we have been sharing in the Divorce Club is an attitude. And the attitude can help you no matter what age you are or what challenges you're facing. And that is the attitude of an optimist, which means that you are looking for the positive. You're emphasizing in your day the things that are going well, and you're not emphasizing the things that are frustrating and troubling and aren't going well. And during a divorce, as we all know, like a roller coaster ride, there are twists and turns, there are ups and downs, and you can really choose how you go through your day and how you navigate it. And what we found helped the most was to keep reminding one another, and that's why the group setting really helps. Because if you're having a really low point, there's someone else that can lift you up and remind you that it's going to get better. And, the positive energy really can make a difference. So, the thing that everybody can have in common is despite any challenges, whether you were left or you left him, whether, you have financial issues or not, whatever's going on, you can find a way to make the best of it. And that's really what our book is about. It's how you're going through a very difficult time and how can we help you make it better.
And the book, of course, is The Optimist's Guide to Divorce with Suzanne Riss and Jill Sockwell. You both will be at Words this Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Let me ask you, this might be too personal, are either of you children of divorce? Because I am. So
Interesting.
No,
Both of us have parents who were happily married.
well, that's good. That must help with the optimism a little. But the reason I ask is my parents split up, but that was in the 70s when divorce really started to sort of explode. But it was a little bit more of a stigma, I think, back then maybe it is today. And is that still the case? Is there maybe a stigma people don't realize, or does that help or hurt getting through it when people maybe accept it and maybe they don't think it's such a difficulty because it is sort of the stigma isn't there as much as it used to be, and do people wrongly think that makes it easier, or what do you find? Is it still sort of a stigma?
I think the general knowledge is that, unfortunately, I suppose you would say that divorce is fairly common.
Yeah.
But general knowledge doesn't help much when it's your personal experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you've gone through everything you've gone through with this partner, and then for whatever reason, either they decide, you decide, or you decide together, now you have to undo all of that. And that is, a tumultuous thing to go through, I think, regardless of how the outside world looks at it. It's very much a personal experience. And like Suzanne said, having the group support really makes a big difference in that. And whenever she and I both got separated, what we couldn't believe were the lack of resources. So like you're saying, for decades and decades now, divorce has been something that, millions of people have gone through. And when she and I both got separated, we just assumed there would be great resources. It's something you don't look for until you need it. And, we found a lot of kind of more clinical books written by field experts, and then kind of fantastical, entertaining, more adventurous memoirs. But what we couldn't find was something that really packed in the trenches advice from been there, gone through it women with kind of a girlfriend's warm tone, and that was why we decided to write the book.
And how did the book come about? Is it something you two brought on your own, or did you know people who... Did you go get an agent, or you tell me?
It's funny because I think Jill and I were both very creative people. I've been a journalist my whole life. Jill was a copywriter and is also a very creative soul. And I think it really started entertaining one another. Mm-hmm. We had some ideas about just funny ways of approaching divorce. And I think that was the initial spark, is that this is a really tough thing. But what if we were able to take some sort of a humorous approach to kind of make it easier, like medicine that doesn't taste so bad. That was the initial spark, I think. And then we just were having fun working on it. We didn't have any agents. We didn't know particularly how it would wind up, but it was just a very great creative outlet. And also we felt like we were learning so much. And
it was therapeutic.
Yes, we wished someone, for example, I hired a solo practitioner as a lawyer, and boy, in my case, it was a mistake. I wound up paying a lot more money because she charged the same rate, whether she was Xeroxing something or, filing a motion, and I just had no idea. And so we wanted to really put in all of the stuff that we were learning that we wish someone had shared with us.
And I'm looking through some of the content pages. It does come off as a very friendly book that's very helpful, has some guidance, but also, as you said, some humor and sort of understanding, the life with your relationship. I see Your Ex and the Warm Body Replacement, Chapter 7, what it's like to deal with that, what it's like to communicate with your ex. I know that's another one. How did you sort of try to mix helpful, real stories with kind of a light, humorous approach? And is that how you should sort of deal with divorce in general?
Well, what we did was we decided to structure the book. It was important to us that we cover the entire divorce process. So we structured the book in 3 different sections. Deal, which is chapters 1 through 7. You mentioned some of those, your ex and the warm body replacement, communicating with your ex. And that is really a little bit more of the most practical sections and really nitty-gritty in what you've got to take on right now. It handles having the conversation, helping the kids with the transition, talking with the kids, making a new budget. You have to sell the marital home. The middle section of the book is kind of like your personal healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's about acceptance and meditating and forgiveness, working on recognizing your past patterns. And then the last section of the book, Reveal, is a little bit more fun. It still has a lot of great advice in it and a lot of practical tips. But it covers everything from, it's time to socialize again and what that can be like when you're separated but not quite single again, to new traditions, to dating, and then starting your own divorce group. We also put everything anyone would need in the book so that they could read that chapter and start their own divorce group. So we wanted the book to be really hands-on but easy to read, because I feel like what you want to do in the initial days of your separation is kind of hole up maybe with a really good friend that's going to give you great advice, and that's what the book does.
And it also has some messages from other people. It seems like there's some people's personal stories. But Suzanne, let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier the fact that we all live in Maplewood. Maplewood is a very family town. It is a big town where you see a lot of moms and dads, husbands and wives. What is it like? Like you mentioned earlier, sort of being divorced or going through a divorce in a town like this is a little difficult because there aren't that many outwardly single or divorced people, and you're sort of thrown into these worlds of both parents being around.
Absolutely. That was part of the reason that it was such a surprise to us when we had 50 people show up for the first divorce club meeting, because it does seem like absolutely everyone is married. And so the fact is, first of all, everyone isn't. And those who are single are looking for, like-minded people, which is part of why I think that we've all kind of gravitated towards one another. And, we offer each other family-like support. So on Mother's Day, we all go out have a picnic. We've taken vacations together and gone camping. I think that we formed a little network that's extremely supportive, so that people don't feel like they're the, odd person out. And also, it's helped us share tips about socializing. We talk about the fact in our book that a lot of couples don't really know what to do. They, which person are they going to stay friends with, and how do they navigate, this divorce? Because maybe it's the first friends that they know that are getting a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So we help each other. We share, our experiences, so that, you might want to tell the host that you're separated and everything's fine, and you'll be solo. And usually that heads up can go a long way towards making everyone feel comfortable. The biggest thing that we've all found is the attitude to it is the attitude everyone's going to take on. So if you're all nervous, comfortable, and stuttering, then people are going to feel like, well, it's a big mess and I don't know how to deal with it. But if you have made peace with it and you're comfortable and you just want to go out and join in on the party or the dinner party, and that's the attitude you bring, that's how you'll be treated.
Excellent. Well, again, we've been talking to Suzanne Riss and Jill Sockwell, co-authors of The Optimist's Guide to Divorce. You can meet them. Actually, you can probably see them in town roaming around with their kids, but you can specifically find them Thursday night. That's this Thursday, January 26th, 7:30 p.m. They will be at Words Bookstore in Maplewood Village. Of course, anyone who hasn't been to Words is missing out. It's a real good place to go in Maplewood Village and to see The Optimist's Guide to Divorce. Ask them questions, get your book signed, and find out what they have to share, and you might get some more members to the Maplewood Divorce Club even from that. So I thank you both for being with us, and we'll hopefully see you Thursday night.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.